Day 3 of the August 95 10-day retreat in Springwater. In listening to the gentle movement of branches and leaves, and that seemingly continuous sound of humming, buzzing, chirping. Is it also possible to look at what is happening within ourselves? What most people report, particularly on days 1, 2, and 3, later too, but it's most concentrated on those first 3 days, is this spinning, this ever-spinning of thinking. Chaotic, as some people describe it. And the implied or felt judgment of that happening, the suffering from it, that there's nothing but thoughts, and of course feelings, sensations, emotions, which maybe one is beginning to discover are intimately connected with thinking and thought. Thinking is the present activity. Thought is what comes up instantly from memory. What one has been thinking about in the past is deposited, stored, and instantly triggerable. One person said, I came here with the firm intention just to watch my thoughts very openly, very neutrally. Like maybe it's possible at times to hear the quivering of leaves and creaking of doors in the wind. It's not so hard to listen to that impartially. And yet this person said when it comes to watching these thoughts, it's practically impossible. One gets carried away with judgment. One doesn't like what presents itself. And it goes on, the judgment, the dislike, the feelings that go with it. The wishing it was different. Ad infinitum, it's all visible to all of us. Sometimes it hasn't happened in this retreat. People say, in coming to this place, I get more thoughts. Where do they come from? Do I get them from other people? No, they're there, but one is becoming more aware of it. And yet, so rarely does somebody says, there's awareness of thought, there's awareness of judgment, there's awareness of emotions connected with it, there's awareness of the crickets and cicadas and wind. There's awareness of discontent, awareness of a queasy feeling in the stomach, awareness of the disappearance of it. We don't put it that way. We say there are thoughts, there are emotions, there is discontent. And I don't like it. It's still there, so often we say. It's still there, implying it shouldn't be there. Still is a time word. Meaning, still there today, but I hope maybe, and please bear with me, maybe tomorrow I can report better about myself. And it's a setup. You see, it's a setup. It's still here, and if it's there tomorrow, oh my God, it's still there. So, but not to lose that difference that came out here. Through all of our training and conditioning each other constantly, we're used to focus and report about that which is seen and react to that which is heard, that which reveals itself, rather than the marvel of being aware at all. There is awareness of thoughts, of swirling, spinning, judging, or else one couldn't report about it. Awareness blinks on and off. It is our true natural state to just be here, superimposed by layers and layers and layers and layers of conditioning, programming. Which causes a lot of conflict and pain and frustration and anger. Occasionally some joy and pleasure. But what is aware of it all? What is beholding it? Beholding meaning it's a different word for seeing it all, but it includes this holding it all in one vast space of no judgment. Even all the judgments are beheld in a space of no judgment, that instant of awareness in which judgment has not yet arisen. It seems that it is simultaneous with seeing, but it is not. There is a time gap which takes for a perception to be transported neurologically, chemically to the cortex to interpret it and to associate with laid down principles, ideas of right and wrong, or what happened in the past. All that takes time. Thought takes time. But this instantaneousness of awareness, of hum and leaves, talking about it takes time, but the perception is without time. Thought builds time on top of it. How I will be in the future, even though I still am this way. Because the big burden in the midst of all of this is that one feels responsible for it, guilty about it, or good about it. When the mind calms down, one may feel one is successful, always relating and attributing to an imaginary doer of all of this, or non-doer of it, a diligent one or a lazy one. And to come upon the fact how this doer is made up out of thought and memory and idea itself is no easy task. It can either happen in a flash or insight by insight. Insight is also a flash. We said it before. It has no time element in it. It has no thought in it. Can one see, comprehend? That by comprehending, I don't mean intellectually. The word actually is quite physical. putting the hands around it. Can one comprehend this moment? We'll do it together. The difference between thinking about the cicadas or the insects and the wind and this body and the floor or the mat in front of one. Thinking about it, visualizing it. One can visualize the mat in front and then one can look and there it is. One can think about the wind in the trees, the words associating with pictures, poeticness. And then one can there be switching into simple listening? Not much wind right now, but the mat is there, the floor. This brown, indescribable thing in front of the eyes. Can one see the difference between thinking about it and just a moment of looking? Sometimes people say to me, I can't see anything without thinking about it. And I know this was the same for myself long ago. At least it must have been. Now it is not so. It is possible to see without first thinking about it. And it may not ever be like this for anyone. But the thinking is so pervasive, so strong, so quick, blotting out that instant of perceiving before the thought arose. And then it may be difficult in a little exercise like what we were doing to just hear. Whatever it is, it's not imitatable. Without knowing what it is. Or seeing the difference between saying, oh, I know these are cicadas, or crickets, or whatever. And this is the wind. I know it's the wind in the trees. And one can have pictures of it, the quivering of leaves. And then let's just listen without the words for an instant. And the breathing is there too. It's words, but it's also no words. It is just this. Caw, caw, caw. It's the words, birds and crows, but it's also just this. Can one get a fine, momentary feeling for the difference? For this momentary just listening. And then be gentle with the fact that words may be streaming all over the place, or may seem to never have left. And yet the listening is there too, isn't it? The sound. The sound, the feel of this cool air streaming, cooling the skin. Sound of words and floor and dark spots and wavy lines. These are words, but it's also there directly. And maybe in the course of time of playing with this, one may be sensitive enough to feel that the body changes somewhat. In the beginning, imperceptibly, but becomes more perceptible. It's a different body that is just listening from the body that is thinking about the sound in the trees and the floor and the woodwork. And who did this? They did a beautiful job. It must have taken a lot of time. Yes, I remember it did. On and on with thinking and memory, and here just this thing. It's a different body that perceives instantly, or that shifts from thinking about something to the openness of simple seeing / listening / feeling, and much more of that, much more than that. So coming back to the woes of despairing over swirling, spinning, everlasting, endless thought trains, the chaos of it, the emotionality of it if angry scenes are recalled. And not just recalled, the commentator starts going, what happened and how, why does it always happen to me? Everybody seems to be picking on me, whatever the line is, and the anger or the frustration or what we called yesterday the victimization is sustained by the commentator. Thought running, storyline proceeding. So that's observable. When that really comes clearly into mind, that the story about what happened keeps the emotions going, keeps the image going with its physical energies, positive or negative. When that's clearly seen, then maybe it can also become clear that it doesn't have to continue. And one can experiment with it in the spirit of wondering, what if no more talking about what happened? What happens to the body, to what one calls my anger, my pain, my fear? Or one may realize the story can't be stopped. There seems to be an addictive attachment to this story. It has to be told to oneself or to anyone who's willing to hear, particularly anyone who's willing to agree with me. Interesting discovery that the things we suffer from and complain about are at the same time, or may at the same time be the things that has attachment to. The body has gotten addicted to the energies produced, positive or negative. Energies are addictive, habituating. One knows nothing else, and don't take this last thing from me. My anger, my victimization. One doesn't put it this way. I'm putting it this way. But the more insight there is into this stuff, then one may be amused, changing from being bemused to amused at what it is that one is holding on to. Reminds me of a time when our son was a little toddler. He was in the garage playing, and I had to take the phone. I left the door open, the garage door was open, the back door was open. And as I was talking on the phone, a huge gust of wind swept through the garage. And Ralph started screaming. So I ran down, and here he was trying to pick up and hold to all the rags, all the trash, everything that seemed to be leaving the house. He was trying to keep it all. Crying. Of course, it's shocking when wind takes things away. Kids are traumatized by tornadoes, hurricanes, adults too. But it was so amazing. We had a little rag to clean one's shoes off before coming. He was holding on to that. It was his objects, his world, him. I may be interpreting. Fact was a screaming child holding on to trash, about to be lost. And we haven't grown very far beyond that. It's not said in a scolding way or in a blaming way, but in out of looking, fact-finding about ourselves. And can it happen spaciously, non-judgmentally? Because it's seen, it's seen, it's seen, this is seen and that is seen. And what a marvelous thing that it's possible to be aware, no matter what it is that is seen. That's not the important thing. What is significant and essential is that here and there is a lighting up of awareness. Instantly overshadowed by involvement and concern and judgment of what it is that is illuminated, rather than remaining with the wonder of illuminating, bringing into light, bringing into the light of day, revealing. So, is it possible for moments at a time to remain with the seeing rather than get busy with the seen? Trying to change it, get rid of it, hold on to it. And if those habitual movements occur as they do most of the time, trying to get rid of, trying to change, trying to hold on to it, to let it be illuminated again by awareness which has no axe to grind, no fault to find, no guilt to arouse. All of these reactions just are illuminated with attention that has no spatial or temporal confinement whatsoever, has room for everything. And that when it happens, that room manifests itself through all kinds of things that are seen and heard and felt, which were never saw, heard, or felt before. So overpowered by concern with what one is thinking about most of the time. Not really with what's happening, but what one is thinking about the happening. One person mentioned see, I don't quite remember it anymore. Because that's the beauty too, when we're really there looking and talking, the recording of everything is a little bit less active than our ordinary conventional ways of needing to remember everything. So, the person was saying something like, this title of your book, The Work of This Moment, the work, it really goes with a very habituated sense of needing to exert myself. Of course, many of us have come from traditions, or may still be rooted in traditions, in which exertion, stretching oneself to the limit, or as it is sometimes says, going beyond, pushing oneself beyond the limit, very much inculcated into this fragile, sensitive system. Particularly fragile, sensitive, and vulnerable when it's just sitting there. Maybe in a scarcely lit room. And indoctrinations and instructions and exhortations are all coming at one. promise of liberation, nirvana, enlightenment, moksha. Maybe in a future life, maybe not in this life, maybe we're not good enough for that. First we have to make effort to purify ourselves. So coming back to the questioner, wondering about what is meant really by this work of this moment, because it rings the associative bell with effort, exertion. Interesting fact is that the 4 languages in which the book has been translated, neither publisher nor translator used the word work. They left that out. Didn't know what word to use. Tried to get away from the word practice. Getting from what do we say, from the frying pan into the fire? And yet, it's nice somebody bringing it up so we can look at it freshly, not just in a patterned, habituated way. Why do we associate work with orneriness? Well, maybe most of us hate to work, have come to hate work. Kids don't hate work, they want to push the vacuum cleaner. Do everything the adults do, and they don't think it's work, but they hear the adults say, oh, I still have so much work to do. Or you kids prevent me from doing my work. So we've picked it up all along. Of course, a lot of jobs are anything but gratifying. Maybe very repetitive or very enclosing. And there's the whole scenario of supervisors. The one biggest complaint of people who work is their supervisors on ego trips. Because oneself is also on ego trips. So, the word work, one can bring up, I can't look at everything, I forget, or don't look at most of the things, just picking out a few things. Everyone can put their thing into it. The word work has been contaminated with negativity and ideas of drudgery. It wasn't meant this way in using it. And if there's no resistance to doing what is right in front of one, whether it's doing the dishes or writing a letter or raking the leaves or building a cabin, repairing, mending, constructing, painting or whatever. If there's no resistance, and the resistance often is, I should be doing something else instead of this. Well, we all can look at our resistances, but if there is none, then this thing is no drudgery. It's the beauty of movement, of change, of creating. And I don't necessarily mean creating a sculpture or a book, piece of music. That's how we usually limit that term. Creating a clean room out of chaos. Creating a meal. Whatever. Is that the work of this moment, to do, creating without resistance, whatever may be there to be done? And with an opening awareness that sheds light on resistance. And by shedding light on resistance, time and 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 time again, seeing it from all sides, in all lights, daytime and nighttime. Its effects, maybe its causes, the thoughts that bring about resistance, and how it affects us and our relationship with each other, with ourselves. Just watching it. Patiently, interestedly. Maybe one morning of doing something, as the realization is, where's the resistance? It's not there. And pondering, I haven't had this resistance in a while. Where did it go? One didn't get rid of it. One didn't overcome it. One illuminated it and watched it. Observed it. Stayed with it. See its effects. What it does. How it bolsters the ego or subtracts from the ego. The self-image, I must be like this, I mustn't be. Just watching it all. As lightly as the summer breeze, from all sides, all the way through. That in itself has unfathomable significance. It doesn't reveal itself at the moment of watching. And the commentator says, that again? Is it still there? Still filling the mind? So, watching the commentator and easing up on that activity, which is possible with intelligent attention. Maybe there is an observing without commentator. Cleaner, freer, more open. Still things may not change, may not seem to change. But observation is there because that's the significant, essential thing. And I'm using observation, listening, attention, awareness, looking. Sort of, in a way, synonymously. Not different activities. Just different words. One looking, one listening. Which is no different for you than for me when it is open. Unattached to immediately needing to refer to me. And that immediate referring to me can come into vision, can come into view. And then wonders, why to refer everything to myself? Remember, I was in a retreat once in California. And the person was at that retreat. I'd never seen her before, never since. She's a teacher in one of the spiritual centers. I was quite amazed that she came to a retreat. She had a certain air of interest about her. Not set image, I'm a teacher, and you better know it. And in one meeting, she entered with a flush of amazement. She says, you know what I just discovered? There isn't a thing I'm looking at without bringing myself into relationship with it. I'd never seen that before. Watching a tree, a relationship. I am seeing the tree, says thought. And maybe thought says, I'm seeing it well. Or I can't see it. Or I must tell somebody about it. Just watch it for yourself. It's amazing. Seeing something and then entering the picture through thought. It has to happen through thought. Without thought, there's just the bunk crawling across the gravel. Sometimes two bunks together. Linked. One of them was red, white, red, white, red, white. I don't know, maybe it was 4 bunks. Many legs. Maybe it was one bug. And to notice too that the moment this interesting phenomenon happens of thought bringing oneself into connection with the scene isn't quite as happy-go-lucky, not quite as open and playful and in touch. Because now there's the touch with me, who has to get in there somehow or other. And we know that from conversations, if we meet together or have conversations together, it's rare, but not impossible, to just listen. Now, making a comment may come out of the situation. I'm not trying to intimidate people in groups to just listen, because if we're all listening, well, we can listen down in that little room. It's hotter than up here, although we have air conditioning. Not intimidate people, implying that every time one says something, one brings oneself in connection with a topic. May not be the case. The topic brings about something. It draws out something, an observation, a memory, which is offered. But one can also observe the urgency, less maybe in meetings, but also in meetings, more in our day-to-day chit-chat conversations of having to have a part in it, having to get in there, put oneself into the picture, to be heard, to be paid attention to. And once one has put out something, the amazing fact that now this is part of me, now I have to defend it. If somebody else says something to the contrary, I can't let it go because it's my rag, my trash. Let no wind blow that away. It's valuable, precious. This is how we feel about something we say most of the time. We don't want it to be gone with the wind. Because there's this interesting process of identification going on. This is my words, my opinion, my belief. And with that process of identification, which is a thought process, the body is mobilized to defend whatever is identified with, in the same way it would defend this life and limb here. Amazing process to watch in oneself, in each other, and of course globally. In the incredibly destructive, cruel wars that go on among us human beings. Defending our identities or what we are identified with. My belief, my race, my ethnic group, my nationality. My ideals, my ideology. The borders of my country, which are purely created by thought. When you fly across the continent, there are no borders visible below. It takes a pilot to announce you're now crossing the border between Germany and Switzerland. And you look down and all there's beautiful mountains and valleys and streams that know no border. But thought has created it, and thought defends it. Causes this organism or any other organism who is imbued with this belief to sacrifice life and limb for for it. And of course, other people's life and limb. So we were coming from someone discovering, to her joy and amazement, and with discovery there often goes a joy which goes far beyond what this thing is that is being discovered. It goes beyond the judgment of it. It's the joy of freedom, of see something for what it is. And in that case, seeing everything that I've looked at, I've brought myself in relationship with it. How amazing, how interesting. Maybe that person was never the same after that. Because something is discovered to be true, but maybe not necessary, not absolutely necessary. So, sitting down in this room or taking a walk on the balcony, in the dining room, wherever. What is the significant thing? What it is that we see? The thoughts, the anger, the depression, the pleasure, the memories, the pain, the anticipation, or that there is seeing it, if even as quick as the lighting up of a firefly. If you're here a month earlier or so and you go up to the pond or look down in this field, it is amazing. The light from little tiny fireflies lighting up only instantaneously, and then no light and light and no light. But one firefly lighting up and no light, light and no light, and hundreds, maybe thousands of fireflies lighting up at one time or another, not simultaneously, whenever, here or there. It makes an amazing light. Which no one needs to explain. We will end here for today.